Today I'm gonna welcome a very, very special person to me. She's not even like a hero for me. She's also like, I call her my second mom. Second mom because of course I do have my mom. She lives in Switzerland. But I don't remember, I was like maybe 17 as I started to come over to your place, Debbie Cooper. And so you kind of adopted me when I was at your place riding horses and spending a lot of time with you. So hello, Debbie Cooper.
Well, you are clearly my Swiss child, and I do feel like your second mother. And of course, you are family, no doubt about it. You are family. I love you, and we are kindred spirits. And I am so honored and flattered to be on this platform today with you. There couldn't be a nicer honor for me. No question.
That's good.
No question.
So I'm very happy to have you. It was a little, I thought the last few days, okay, I really want to have one with Debbie, and then I was like, yeah, just let's do it. Not plan too much and just ask her, and you jumped in. So I'm very happy about that.
I'm very good at spontaneous and just winging it, flying by the seat of my pants, as we say over here in the U.S. It's the best way.
That's true.
It's the best way.
So please introduce yourself a little. You're a big horsewoman. You showed like everything. But how did you get to horses? Where did it start?
Well, my beginning really is not very exciting. I didn't come from a horse family. We weren't horse breeders. We didn't have horses necessarily when I was first born. My dad loved horses and liked horses. And my parents lived on the East Coast for years, and they would always have like maybe just like one horse that would pull a cart or a wagon around. Of course, I wasn't even born yet at that point in time, but they went through periods of their life where maybe they had a horse. They moved from the East Coast in Connecticut out to the West Coast to Arizona, which in the late 40s and early 50s was not very populated and really pretty remote. And my dad joined what is called the sheriff's posse, the mounted posse, where you rode horseback and you did search and rescue for areas and things like that. So he enjoyed the horses. And then I'm the youngest of four, and my three older siblings were not particularly interested in horses. And you know what? Some little girls, or some boys for that matter, are just born with a passion from within. And that was me. There's no rhyme or reason why at age 5 I was obsessed with horses, but I was. My earliest memories were playing out in the dirt with model horses and making corrals and building bridles out of rubber bands and I don't know why. It was just within me. And I didn't have a horse, but I had an imaginary horse, and he lived in my bedroom with me, and I would tie him up to the bumper of the car when we got in the car, and I would tell my mom, don't drive too fast, you're dragging him. So
oh my gosh.
I don't know. I was just this weird horse crazy little kid, and I had two really wonderful parents that realized that they had a child that had a passion and was obsessed, and they just did everything they could to nurture that instead of telling me not to be that way. I got a pony. We put the pony in the backyard. My dad took me to a horse show one day. Would you like to do this? Yeah, that'd be fun. And it went from there.
Cool.
And I was very lucky. I mean, as little as they knew, they did a really good job of, they went to a horse show, they looked around, they saw what needed to be done. They saw the other kids that were certainly a lot more experienced than theirs and seemed to know a lot more. They realized that we had to find a trainer. They made good decisions. So they, found a trainer for me. His name is Jim Paul. Jim is legendary today. I was very grateful and very blessed to be able to be taught and mentored by Jim. Lots of people know Randy Paul as a reiner. Randy is Jim's middle son. And he was a true horseman. And a lot of us learned from Jim. There were a lot of people at that time. Al Dunning rode with Jim at that time that I did. Several other people that went on to become very, very successful in our industry. So I had the absolute best learning environment that a person could have. And I'm so grateful and so blessed for that. Though the horsemen of that generation were, they were so gifted. We did everything back then. You did everything. I mean, during my lifetime, I've shown Western pleasure horses, trail horses, Western riding horses, cutting horses, reining horses, working cow horses, English. I grew up in a time frame when we learned to ride every discipline pretty much that existed.
Everyone did everything. So Jim did everything, Randy did everything.
Yes.
It was not like he only had reiners or
no.
Mm-hmm.
No, not at that point in time. Specialization didn't start to become necessary, and I won't say popular yet. I'll say necessary. Specialization became necessary. I'm going to say in the mid to late 80s, because a lot of us, not everybody, but because a lot of us did do so many events. So by this point in time, let's say it's in the 80s, and I am married, and my former husband and I, have a business together. So between the two of us, we would show in the Western pleasure, the trail, the Western riding, the reining, as I say, the working cow horse, the cutting. Then, of course, we would have our youth riders and our amateur riders that would also be showing in everything. Showmanship, horsemanship, reining. They showed in everything as well. Not everybody did the cow horses and did the cutters. Not all the trainers went on to be quite that diverse, but a handful of us were. So after a while, how many places can you be in one time? Horse shows started getting bigger. They started running multiple arenas. How could I be over in the reining arena and over here in the Western pleasure arena at the same time? How do you make sure your clients get their money's worth? And it just became necessary to start specializing. And that's how the specialization came about. And, for us, we continued more with the reining horses and the working cow horses, and still had the cutting horses and that type of thing. And then, of course, now, my gosh, we're so specialized, right? I mean, even in the all-around events, somebody will specialize in just pleasure horses or just trail horses. And
crazy,
now we always used, those of us that had cow horses always had reiners, and look at how specialized that has become. You just do the cow horse or you just do the reining, because there's so many more shows now and major events. You can't be at a major event at the same time. So
this I understand, but now as you're talking, I think about, like, because I also did, started with everything, like showmanship, horsemanship, trail, and all that stuff. And for me, or as I see all the big trainers like you and all of them, I think for me it was a really good foundation, riding wise, showing wise too. I mean, now of course I'm only riding reiners, but for me the foundation, I think, was very important, or is important. What do you think, the kids right now, they already jump into a specialization? So do you...
I absolutely couldn't agree with you more. That's why a moment ago I said, I feel so blessed to have grown up in that generation, because it exposed me to so many things, as it did you. You showed in the horsemanship, and it creates a base and a foundation. And I find it really actually quite frustrating today. And I understand the necessity, but I feel like, somebody comes to a horse show, let's say they go to a reining, for instance. go to a high-end reining. They've never even shown before, but they go to that reining and they see it and they say, well, that's what I want to do. I want to buy a horse and I want to do that. Well, that's great, except they don't even know how to ride yet. So here you are as a trainer trying to teach somebody how to ride that has no foundation. You know, when I started showing, you worked your way up, didn't you? As your skill set became higher and higher, you took on disciplines that required a higher education, such as the reining or such as the cow horse. It was sort of for the elitist riders, for the riders that were skillful enough to be able to go on and do that. And now riders are trying to start to learn a discipline that requires a lot of skill and practice when they're just beginning to learn to ride a horse. So I really find it a conflict. But that's just, it's today, it's the way it is. It's not going to go back in time. It shouldn't go back in time. But for those of us that had a really broad foundation and learned on a broad foundation, I think we're lucky.
Yeah.
We're blessed.
Yeah. I think so too.
I think a true horseman needs to have a wider background, a better understanding. I know that doing all of those events has given me a much better understanding of, let's just say, a reining horse, for instance. I know what they're capable of. I have different expectations because I know what they can do. And it's interesting, this ranch riding has gotten very popular over here in the US the last few years. And I'm wondering if it isn't a little bit maybe going to bring back the all-around horse. It'll be interesting in 10, 15, 20 years to see where it goes, because now we have like a whole ranch division over here.
Yeah.
So you do the ranch riding, you do the ranch trail. They have a class on the rail. And I find it kind of fun. So if you were to say to me, hey, Debbie, I want to go buy a ranch rider. I'd like to do the ranch riding. Well, we would go buy a reining horse.
So it's still like that.
In your instance, you would already. Yeah. So if I'm going to go look for a ranch riding horse, I'm either going to go look for a cow horse or I'm going to go look for a reiner. And, they still have to be very legitimate. They still have to mark at least a 72 for me. They've got to be able to turn around pretty well. Maybe they're not going to be a level 4 horse, but, they've got to be pretty legit. So we take that reiner that's had nothing but reining done, nothing. And within about a year, that same reiner who only knew how to be a reiner now is a trail horse, a ranch riding horse. He's going on the rail and winning rail classes. It's amazing how trainable horses really are. I mean, there's these, reiners that I'm on, and there I am walking them over trail poles, and they're great. Their heads are down, their ears, their expression. I'm like, he was, and then I go back out in the arena and I do all his old stuff: big fast circles, small slow circles. Turn around,
no problem.
Speed up, slow down, run, roll back on the fence. Maybe I go put him on the flag and work him on the flag.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a resurgence of those old all-around horses. So I'm curious to see where this will go.
Happen. Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
And so another question is like, how, or it's a very big question, but I'm going to throw it out now. It's like, how is it as a woman in that horse equestrian sport world? I mean, because what we see or what I see is like in the very high sport, or I would say even like there are more men training horses than women, or I don't know.
Of course.
And so why and how, or how does it feel for you, how it is, or what do you think? Why? I mean, it's a very big question, but...
So is your question, why are we seeing more women, or is your question, why is it still a male-dominated sport?
Why is it still a male-dominated sport?
Okay. I think the kind of obvious reason for the fact that it's a male dominated sport is for women, we just have more life decisions to make, right? I mean, we have to decide, and probably a lot of that is having a family, right? I mean, there you are. And I think that's true for women, just if they're going to have a career in general. It's not so easy to have a career and to have children. It's difficult, right? It's a task. And then you take the horse industry where we're on the road, we're traveling, we're gone. Do you take the child out of school? Do they come with you on the road? Does someone come along with you to help take care of it? So I just think the mere fact that we're women and some women are going to have a family, and they kind of make a choice between family or career. So I don't think it's just the industry itself. I just think it's a little bit of the cycle of life, so to speak. And it's a little more difficult than some other careers for a woman to be able to do both without something suffering. Is it going to be your parenting? Is it going to be your career? What's it going to be? Can it be done? Of course it can be done. Yes, we've seen it, right? Today we see plenty of highly successful career women with, beautiful families. I mean, it can be done. Is it a lot of work? Yes. It's a tremendous amount of work. And with the horses, as I say, the traveling is a big deal. You have a few more components to add into that than the career woman that is, her job is in this where she lives in her state, gets in her car, drives to work, comes back. It's more of a set schedule. Kids are going to be in school from 8 a.m. they're 3 p.m. Whereas us, maybe we're at a horse show working 15 hours a day, 17 hours a day, get up and ride in the middle of the night. All of those things. Our job is not typical. It's different from most
It's not
most
a
careers.
9 to 5 job, of course, and not like Monday till Friday, and then
we can't really set a schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not so easy. So I think that is primarily why it is still a male-dominated industry. I think that's a big part of it anyway. And what I find really interesting, this is something that's always intrigued me a lot. So we're talking about a field that is male-dominated, no question, right? But let's rewind a few years, or even today still, and we go to a regular horse show. Let's just say a regular quarter horse show, or even a reining for that matter, whatever. And we go to watch the youth class. 80% of the entries are going to be girls.
Yeah. True.
90% of the entries are going to be girls, right? Growing up, you and I as kids showing, go to the horse shows, all girls, right? A couple boys here and there, but by and large, horse crazy little girls. Well, then, now you fast forward 20 years, 25 years. Now, there were no boys at the horse shows, but they're all the horse trainers.
Strange.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
how did that happen?
Totally.
Have you ever thought about that?
No, I never thought about that, but it is like this. It's true. Or even like in the people who don't even show. Most people who just have a horse are mostly women, I would say.
Exactly. Yes. I'm going to say that most trainers, most of their non-pros, whether they're in Europe or whether they're in the U.S., most of their non-pros are going to be women.
Totally. Yeah.
You're going to have a handful of men that jump up and want to get out there and go show. A lot of them are, at least here in the U.S., a lot of those gentlemen, maybe they're approaching retirement age or they have retired, but they're well in their 50s or 40s, and now they can afford to do something, so they jump on and go show.
True.
You don't really see a lot of men out there in their 20s and 30s out there in the non-pro world. Some, but it's still mostly women, isn't it? It's still
totally.
The vast majority of our non-pros are women.
And did you, as a trainer, feel like you're like a rare species in the men's world? Or for you, it was just okay. You're just one of them, and you showed, or like, or yeah,
For me, I never even thought about it.
never. Okay.
I just never gave it a thought.
Yeah.
I never really even gave it a thought about being a trainer. It just happened. I started showing horses when I was 11 years old. I showed all through till I was, 18, 19 years old as a youth. Then I got married. I got married to, who was my trainer's assistant trainer, kind of one of those situations, right? I mean, we were friends and then we got married and then we began a business. So it just evolved. I never thought about it. Whether I was going to become a trainer or not a trainer. I never gave it any thought. But then, I did do a lot of events. Even then, I showed the reiners and showed the cow horses. But I did that as a youth rider as well. I showed reiners and I showed cow horses, and those were the events that I really loved. It's where my passion was. I don't know. Maybe some women. I don't know. Maybe they don't have that sort of. You don't want to call it a daredevil kind of attitude, but I never, going fast was fun. Working a cow was fun. Charging down the fence 90 miles an hour, it was great. I wasn't intimidated by any of that. It's just what you did. But it's what I learned how to do when I was young, because it's what Jim did. It's what we all did. So I really never saw myself any differently than a man. And, then when I got my judges cards, there weren't that many women really that had a judges card. Some, but I didn't think about that either. I never gave it a thought that, hey, not very many women have a judges card. I never felt that way. I did it because that was something that I needed to do for my industry and for myself to advance my professional career. And it was a way to give back to an industry that had given me that. And I look at judging like that. I look at judging like it is an opportunity for a good judge, to give back to their industry, to uphold the industry's values, and to continue to be there with an educated and open and honest, fair opinion to all the people that choose to show.
Totally.
So I mean, even though I get paid to do that, I still look at it as a way for me to give back to an industry that's done so much for me. But yes, am I aware of it? Yes, there I would be. One time I was judging, I want to say it was the World Show. I don't know. It might have even been the European Championships. I forget. But it was a panel of 13 judges and 12 were men and me.
Oh, crazy.
So I kind of looked around and went, oh, golly. But I was never bothered by that. I have always been treated with respect. I have never felt that, in a male-dominated field that men looked at me with a less than attitude. Yep. I've always been treated with respect. I just never think about the fact that I'm a woman in a male-dominated world. Really never given it much of a thought.
That sounds great, because that also means like you never kind of struggled, or you felt like, oh, I'm an underdog and I have to prove myself even double, or
Never.
Okay.
Never. That kind of thinking would never cross my mind. No. You just think that you want to go out and give my personal best every single time I walk into the show pen, or my personal best every single time I give a lesson. When I'm teaching somebody and coaching somebody, I want to give 100%. I want to do everything I can do to help that person become the rider that they want to be. Yeah, and so giving less than that, or comparing myself. I don't ever compare myself to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I don't, look at somebody else, let's say a great rider, an excellent rider. That's not to say that I don't look at them and learn from them and study them, as we all do. You do too. I mean,
totally.
I think when you become a rider of a certain level, that's we are good at what we do, because we are open-minded and we do want to learn and we do want to continue to learn. But I don't ever compare myself to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. I think
That
that's
would
very
never-
important.
That would never cross my mind. I mean, I think in order to be successful at this industry, or not even as a, whether you want to be a highly successful non-pro or whether you want to be a highly successful trainer, you've got to have a lot of self-confidence. You've got to believe in yourself. We can't doubt ourselves, which is different than wanting to become better or to learn a new technique. Hey, you know what? I saw Adrienne out there turning this horse around, and I really like the way she did it. I like the way she lifted that horse's shoulder up. I think this is going to work. I need to do more of that. Those types of things.
Exactly.
Looking at somebody and going, oh, you know what? That works. I'm going to try that. That's how we continue to grow and to build better horses, and and for me to make better riders.
Totally. Because I think if you compare yourself to others, then first of all, I think you're never really satisfied with yourself, and you're kind of stuck, because then you always compare, and not have an open mind to see something and to learn, I think.
Well, and you're trying to be like somebody else instead of figuring out how to be you.
Yeah. Totally.
We have to know what works for me.
Exactly.
You know what works for Adrienne. I know what works for me. Now, that's not to say that I'm not willing to change that, but I don't want to be, or tweak it a little bit to do something a little bit differently. But I've got to have enough confidence in knowing what I'm doing is working.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed enough. You've had a highly successful show career. I've had a highly successful show career. Obviously, some of the stuff we're doing is working, or we wouldn't be, we wouldn't be out there being successful. So, we want to keep that in mind too.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. This is working for me. I better not change this.
Yeah. True.
So I think that's important. Really important.
Yeah. So do you think there's like, or could there be like a physical or a mental difference between men and women showing wise? Or well, let's put it that way. As we know, like last year, first woman won the NRHA Futurity. So this year, first woman won the World's Greatest Horseman. So why didn't it happen before? I mean, there were, of course, some very good ladies around, but is there like really a mental or a physical? Is there, or do you think it's just coincidence? Or
no. I think a lot has to do with the fact that if it's just the size of the pool, so to speak, the pool of male trainers, we just talked about it previously, it's a male-dominated sport. So obviously there are way more men out there competing, so their odds of winning are going to be a lot higher.
Yep.
Now, these two women that have just won are obviously have extraordinary talent. As does, we have other female riders out there with extraordinary talent. We've got Sarah Dawson. We've got, just they are extraordinary athletes. They're special. They truly are. But as far as, are there a lot of people out there with that kind of talent? No, there's not. But, take your top 10 male riders either. Are there a lot of riders out there with a lot more talent than they have? No, they're not. They're winning because they're extraordinary. They're great. They're doing the right stuff. But still, there's so many more men out there competing. So the likelihood of them winning the major events is higher. So I think it's just because the pool of women is so much smaller. It has nothing to do with their talent, their skill set. Men win because they're stronger. No, I don't believe that. Now, are there times that I have felt like, yes, there is a physical difference between men and women. Yeah. Are they stronger? Sure, they are. But I don't think that strength is always in their best interest. I think women, and I would pose this question to you. I think as women, we do need to learn a little bit differently. We ride differently because we are women. We know that we don't have the physical strength. Maybe I can't pull one as hard. Maybe I can't spur one quite as hard. But I can do other things. I can rely on other talents that I have. I mean, I think we learn how to do things in a little different way than men do, and it works for us. Sometimes maybe I think we're even a little more intuitive. I think women in general are a little more intuitive. And I think sometimes we can be a little more intuitive with that horse. I can crawl into that horse's brain, and, I really try to look at the world through their eyes. I think women are probably a little better than that at men are. I think we have a skill set, our own feminine skill set, that is really conducive and really helpful to us. So, I mean, sometimes the physical part is hard, but by that, I don't even mean the riding. I mean, the loading, the unloading, the, dragging the bales of hay out of the back of the truck. I mean, sometimes I just go, oh, golly. Yeah. But not so much when I'm on a horse.
No, I don't think,
Not so much.
I anyway think if you would need like more, you have to be stronger, like body wise, it's not riding anymore. Because for me, riding doesn't really has to do with, you don't have to be very strong. You know what I mean? Of course, it helps if you're fit and healthy, but I don't think if you ride with your muscles, something is wrong, I think. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
I agree completely.
Yeah, but all the rest around the barn, and I mean, I learned that too, because like 5 years, I thought, we don't need a man in a barn. I can do that. We can do that. We were a whole women team. And suddenly I had the first man working for me, and I was like, okay, it's a very big difference. Now I get it.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. It's like, oh, this is not, they can just reach up and pull a bale of hay
Yeah.
down. I mean, there's just some things that physically they can do that we can't. I mean, there just is. But I don't think that pertains so much once we're on a horse.
Yeah.
I don't think so at all, or at least I've never felt that way.
Yeah.
I've never felt that way.
True. Yeah. This is almost everything I wanted to ask you about, like women in the horse sport in the Christian world. And I don't know, maybe you have something to add, or if you have something about that theme you really wanted to say.
Well, I just, I think it is really, really exciting that we do have women out there now showing. There are more women showing in the events like the reining and the cow horse now than there were when I was younger. There's no question. A younger trainer, there really weren't that many. So, I love seeing the success that women are having today in our industry. But I just love to see a great rider. I love to see a winner win.
Yep.
Bottom line, I have so much respect for a great horseman or a great horsewoman, or just a great horse. You like to see greatness be rewarded.
Yep.
And I'm blessed to have grown up in the generation that I grew up in. I'm so thankful that I'm as well-rounded as I am. I'm thankful that the horse shows have changed, and I really feel like I was lucky enough to grow up, and in my, even in my career, I just feel like it was the best of times. It really, really, really was. Things are different. Things are great. Purses are bigger. All of those things. I mean, we've done nothing but grow. But I'm just really, really happy and privileged that I was able to do all the things that I learned how to do as a horsewoman. Incredibly grateful for that. And to be able to pass it on to others. I mean, you're a part of that. I wouldn't have ever met you if I didn't know how to do showmanship and horsemanship and pleasure and thrill.
Yeah.
But then, there we were, and you like the reiners, and yep, that too, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm proud of myself for being that well-rounded.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you definitely
and
can be. Yeah.
and grateful to have had that opportunity to grow up in that generation.
Yeah.
And then to be able and to be doing this long enough to be able to see, the people that I have, worked with or helped or coached a little bit, like yourself. It's so rewarding. Look at that. Look at, there you were 12 years old, and now, look at the success that you've had. I mean, that's, you're highly successful. You're an excellent rider. You're respected by your peers. You're respected by on-pros. You're respected by trainers. That's a privilege for me to see people that maybe I've had a little small piece of their life, go on and have success and still love horses, still love doing what they love to do.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal to me.
Yeah, and I always say you are a part of my whole story or career or whatever. You are, definitely. And I really like how you say, like, you want to give something out. And this is also somehow why I do that podcast, because I think you can it's giving information or knowledge out. And I think so, like this, I can give a little bit something out, and they can learn, or even if they are only inspired by something, it's already, I think it's very important.
No, I think it's fabulous. And I think for people, you clearly are incredibly passionate. I'm passionate. We have a desire to give back. It's important. I think, there are a lot of, in my industry, as far as from a trainer standpoint, a lot of people don't survive in this industry. The longevity isn't there. They come in, they do it for 10 or 15 years, and they're gone. So to be able to have longevity, to see generations still continue to be, why wouldn't I want to give back for that lifestyle that's been afforded to me? Why wouldn't I want to pass that on to somebody else so that they can have the same passion in life and to know that kind of success that I did? So it's a great feeling. It's just fun. It's just a great feeling.
I can only agree to that.
Yeah, and it's sometimes I think about this often, actually. What is it? You and I both have a passion. Most of the people that we surround ourselves with, we obviously have the common ground, which is the horses. So we're passionate about that. We've been driven our whole lives. We don't even know why we've been driven. We just were. My parents didn't make me do it. They weren't there going, you have a horse show. No, it was me. Your parents didn't force you to like horses. So we've always had a huge goal to work toward. What about people that don't feel a passion toward anything? I always wonder what it would be like going through life.
Yeah, I had that conversation once with someone, because I always thought it's very difficult for me to explain someone my passion who has no passion about anything. I mean, and sometimes I realized I really tried to explain my passion, explain myself, and I really learned it's if someone doesn't have something like this in his life, they don't understand it. It's not like, oh yeah, I know, I like sailing, I like sail. Yeah, it's not I like it. I think about it when I go to bed. I maybe dream about it. I get up, I think about it. I mean, not my first thought, but like I get up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to train the horse this week like this and this and this and this, go to that show. It's always going through my brain like that. So that's what I call passion.
Yes, it's just something from within that we don't know why it's there.
Yeah.
It's something from within. It's very much the same like with judging. We have a lot of judges out there, but if you're not passionate about your industry and the horse, you won't see judges with a lot of longevity either. I mean, it's something you have to absolutely love doing, to go out there and sit in a chair for 15 hours and
Totally.
not take your eyes off of the center of the arena. And, people will say, how do you do that? How do you sit there? How do you stay focused like that? Well, we don't even think about it, because we're so involved and so focused and trying so hard to make sure that the decisions that we make are the right ones, the right choices. People couldn't do that if they weren't passionate about it. They just couldn't.
I always say, like, if someone comes and wants to ride or learn and wants to start to show and I mean, they can do it, but like to really, really, really be good at it, I think you really have to be a little crazy and passionate about it because,
sure.
Yeah.
I think so too. Well, come on, look at what we do. We get up and we ride in the middle of the night, ride in horrible weather. We do things that other people in their right mind would just go, why are you doing this?
Exactly.
Sometimes we have to question our passion, whether it's there's a fine line between sanity and insanity, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We're blessed. We're lucky. We truly are.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I mean, I have to say I'm very blessed that I met you, that I know you, that we're still in a very good contact. Even we don't talk like every day, but it's always like we saw each other yesterday. And blessed to have you and have many others in my life and team. So that's very nice.
It's a good thing, for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
So
what is next on your agenda?
Next will be another, not really schooling show, but at Grisha Ludwig's place. He has a little show. I'm gonna take the old mare to show the non-pro trophy, and I will take another mare to school because she's very green. She has to go out. And after that, there will be the Breeders' Derby, the German Breeders' Derby. And for that, I have 2 horses, so very much looking forward to.
Well, and you've got to be proud of your success and all that you have done. I mean, you're a premier rider. No doubt about it. And now you're sharing that with your podcasts to other people, and it's a wonderful thing. So proud of you and so happy for you.
Thank you.
So good.
Thank you.
Good. They're lucky to have you over there in Europe.
Otherwise, I'm gonna come over to Arizona if they're not happy.
Perfect.
So I wanted to thank you for that talk. It was blessed. It was great, and thank you. And maybe we're gonna have another talk another time. And
I would love that.
Thank you very much.
And I feel likewise. I'm honored and I'm flattered. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Goodbye.
Bye.